Oh, holy, what a morning. What a morning. It's another day in life, I guess. Any of you guys following some of my sharing in this past month when I was away? The well failed. And then I got home and there's air sputtering out of all the faucets and everything. I'm like, when did this happen? And Sarah had a plumber over because she said the pressure was going out of the system, and here's the big blue ball that goes downstairs for the pressure. And the plumber came out, did whatever he had to do, and said he fixed it. Left. And then she said there was hardly any pressure as compared to before. And then all of a sudden, mysteriously, bubbles are coming in. I'm like, well, it's either where the brass fitting fits in to go 90 degrees towards the house at the top of the pump line, or the line's broken somewhere. So here we go again. Gotta pull the frickin' well pump out of the ground. Raining, of course, today. And as I pulled it up, the whole thing went dunk. The top half of the pipe started coming out, and the other one went and hung down on that other rope. Imagine if there wasn't a rope there. Anyway, I don't know how or why, but the one section had completely unthreaded and came apart. Huh? Anyway, that's what I've been doing. And then, of course, last night, the pump stopped pumping altogether. Is it the electricity? Nope. This place is cursed, I'll tell you what. It is frickin' cursed. Anyway, they all took off to go to another place for another pump that's going to be about 3 times as much as the piece of shit's been buying from the store here in town. So, I got everything I needed to get done. Now I'm going to sit down and listen to some people and chill out a little bit. Chilly out there, man. Whew. Chilly out there. Such a different cold here than in the interior. You know, I was in minus 20. No problem. Then you get here, it's like 5 degrees and damp, and it just cuts through your body like a knife. It's such a weird, different cold when it's wet. Atmosphere. The coast. Now, let's hear some people, shall we? Hey Steve, my name is Matt, and I'm a native to Idaho. I don't share this story because of the general reaction people give on the topic, but since I've seen your videos, I've seen more people reaching out and would like to share mine as well. Around 5 years ago, I was whitetail hunting the late rut around November 24th in northern Idaho around Orofino on a friend's property. We were camped on the edge of a clear cut in a wall tent. And around 1 a.m., we started to hear what sounded like tree limbs being knocked together and loud shaking on tree limbs. We figured it was nothing and went back to sleep, but the next morning I went and sat on the far end of the tree line about a mile from our camp by myself while my old man hunted the next property. I was watching a few does and about 25 turkeys. When out of nowhere, I heard what I can only describe as a blood-curdling scream. Not quite like a woman or a human of any kind. It sounded just like an ape wailing as loud as it could. As soon as the screech stopped, every turkey in that clear-cut field gave off the yelp that they call out when predators are near, and the field emptied in seconds. The next few minutes were pure silence. No turkeys, no animals moving, nothing. I got a horrible feeling something was watching me, and I walked back to camp with my rifle loaded, shitting my pants. It couldn't have been anything else. I was raised in the woods, and that's the only time I've heard that sound. The day I became a believer, Matt. The day you became a knower. You became a knower. The day you accepted all the people's testimony and knowledge. Appreciate that share, my man. Welcome to the club. You can't get out. You can't get out of this club. Now, Chili. This is titled Old Story. Here's a story for you. My name is Matt, and this story has always had me intrigued with Sasquatch. This is an old story, perhaps based in the 70s, and it's a story my grandfather has told me many times. Back in the day, he was a big fisherman, and he'd fish Friday evening, fishing tournaments with a longtime friend of his. His favorite lakes were out in East Texas. This particular tournament was on Toledo Bend Reservoir, right on the Texas-Louisiana border. So here it is. He and his partner had been fishing for a few hours, and the sun had just about gone down. They were fishing back in the deep cut, and suddenly began to notice a really bad smell in the air. And as they reached the back, they could hardly stand this smell any longer, and that's when they saw this dark, hairy thing crouched at the water edge. Neither one could tell what it was, and as they looked for a flashlight, this creature stood up and took a few steps toward them. He said this thing was huge, too big to be a bear, and it was upright on two legs. He said it was the most scared he'd ever been in his life. They immediately started the boat, took off to the ramp, and they were too scared to stay out and fish any longer. While my dad and uncle think this has always been made up, my grandfather's always said it's the truth. Having never had an experience of my own, it's hard to say. I'm a 100% believer that these creatures exist. However, because of the stories you've told of my grandfathers, my skepticism has drastically decreased. Keep doing what you're doing. Love all the videos on your channel. Thank you for your time. Matt Ramirez. Matt, appreciate it, man. It's interesting how it's interesting to me just how hard it is for people to trust the testimony on this topic and some others from close family, not just strangers, and accept it. It's so bizarre, isn't it? It's a really weird thing for me to witness. I don't get it. I don't understand how strong that is to so many people. Strength meaning the strength to keep this at bay. No matter who tells you what they saw, just keep it at bay. It's a handy tool to have in life to accept truth and knowledge. It's really handy. It can help somebody in the future instead of keeping it at bay. Unless you live your entire existence in the concrete man-made jungle. This is titled Sasquatch. Hi Steve, my name is Steve also. I've been logging the northwest part of PA for over 30 years. 10 to 15 years ago, I was cruising a piece of timber in a remote town called Driftwood, PA for an older lady. The property starts in a narrow meadow and gets super steep and rugged as I headed north. As I walked the whole property line, this weird sensation of someone watching or following me became very strong. On my way back to the meadow, I noticed a spruce tree with all the limbs ripped off up to 10 to 12 feet high on all four sides, and they were laid in neat piles. I never heard or saw a thing, but the hair on my neck stood up. Upon returning to the woman's house, I politely asked her if she or someone had piled up those boughs. Her immediate response was no. But 2 years ago, my son saw Bigfoot at the top of the lane, the meadow, and we haven't been back there since. One of the larger timber companies in our area had just finished a huge clear cut to the northeast side of her property. The timber wasn't worth much, and I was glad because I'm not sure I would have cut it after such a strong sensation. I never felt threatened, but I had a strong respect for the habitats of that property. You seem like an honest person. And gave an email to respond to. Have you ever seen a bed of boughs like that? Thank you. Have I? Have I? I don't think I have. It's funny, I'm starting to get at that age where I gotta look back and try to remember things when it comes to this topic. Then I'll all of a sudden remember something I totally forgot about. I don't think I have. Found some pretty big beds where people or something's just laid down. I found some pretty real big lay down sections of long, waist high grass while elk hunting. I mean, you can obviously tell a moose bed or an elk bed. I can tell the difference between the two. But I've seen some pretty freaking big lay down indentations in grass, but I haven't seen a bed constructed. I've seen the typical weird things, of random sticks and shit stacked in a weird spot in the middle of frickin' nowhere. That did not make sense at all. But no, I haven't seen a bed made yet. Lots of people have, though. People are probably going to chime in the comment section below. Appreciate that. Sending that in, man. I like hearing from loggers, because I feel that most loggers have kept their mouths shut on this topic and are probably shamed into not even talking about it openly or factually. But quite a few loggers have come forward, both on here and personal loggers I know. Iowa Bigfoot is a titleless email. Steve, I enjoy your hunting passion and your interest in Bigfoot. My story doesn't come from the Pacific Northwest, but from the bluffs along the Mississippi River in northeast Iowa. I've never seen a Bigfoot, but I do believe that we came across an individual who at the time was in his late 80s that did. This man had a theory about how Bigfoot was migrating up and down the Mississippi River during certain times of the year. My encounter involved my father, his hunting partner, and myself, and here's my story. Back in the mid-70s, my father and his hunting partner, Cleet, invested in 2 coon dogs. And at that time, a good raccoon pelt went for $75. Wow, it's quite a bit of money. So, during the fall months on Friday and Saturday nights, we would go coon hunting. The limit was 6 per person, and if we limited out, that was really good money. No doubt. We hunted along the Mississippi River in northeast Iowa. The limestone bluffs along the river were topped with farmers' crop fields, and the timber on the bluffs held many raccoons. It was hard to access the bluff from on top, so what we would do is walk along the railroad tracks at the bottom of the bluffs right next to the river until we could get up in between the bluffs. My dad and Cleet found a farmer who had land along the Mississippi River, and he allowed us to hunt. We'd park and walk a quarter mile down the railroad tracks and found a nice ravine that was full of raccoons. This land was rough with trees and limestone rocks, and an occasional small cave. We hunted this land with great success for a few years, and we had no problem limiting out on raccoons each time. There's nothing around except this farmer's house and barns. Excuse me. He raised beef cattle and planted corn, soybeans, and hay. After a few years of hunting this land, I remember my father telling me we have to find a new spot to hunt raccoons. Apparently the farmer didn't want us on the land. But it was just for this year. We could probably come back next year. I never thought much of it, and we hunted other areas. And the next year we hunted this farmer's land again, and we had our typical luck. And one night we were hunting, and the 2 coon hounds that had tore up the side of the ravine were in. One night we were hunting, and the 2 coon hounds that we had tore up the side of the ravine we were in. We heard one yelp like he was hurt. Both dogs tore down from where they came and ran past us, and the last we saw were running back down the railroad tracks towards where we parked. Now these 2 dogs were both brave and dumb. They would occasionally tear into a skunk until they killed it, but got sprayed bad every time. One night they ran into a badger, which was rare for our area, and the badger cut one of the dogs up pretty good, but they kept fighting it until we were able to shoot the badger. Whatever scared those dogs had us stumped. Helicopter. Seriously? Why me? You guys gonna come over to the house? Or no? I think that's the loudest it's gonna get. Maybe. They need a sign on the roof. Recording. All helicopters. F.O. Whatever scared those dogs had us stumped. I shined the light up where they were and didn't see or hear anything, although Cleet said he got a glimpse of something brown, but that's it. Both my dad and Cleet were Korean War Army veterans, and I remember the looks on their faces. They were on alert, not scared. They shouldered their rifles, 22 caliber, pointing them wherever they looked. That'd be unnerving just to see that going down. I remember my dad calmly telling us that we all need to slowly get out of here, and Cleet agreed. The whole woods felt weird and quiet, and I was scared, but I was thinking it was an animal we never encountered. We were concerned that the dogs were still on the railroad tracks, and we didn't want them to get hit by the occasional passing train, so we walked back out, and when we got to where we parked, the dogs were nowhere to be found. We tried calling them, but no luck. My dad left his hunting jacket on the ground, and he said the dogs would smell it and be there in the morning, waiting for us. I've seen that happen. And work. In snow. So we left and went home concerned about what happened. My dad and Cleet were convinced that all would be okay in the morning. The next day we got a call from the farmer, and he said our dogs were in his barn. I remember my dad laughing when he told me. We joked about how maybe the dogs were finished as hunting dogs. Maybe they ran into a really big raccoon. Cleet drove out and picked the dogs up. They were unhurt, and I figured we would be back out on Saturday night to hunt. And later that day, after talking with Cleet, my dad told me we weren't going out hunting tonight. Oh yeah? He was very serious. That's all he told me. We would never go back to that farmer's property ever again. Interesting. I asked why. My dad just said the farmer doesn't want us there anymore. I don't even remember my dad getting his hunting jacket back. I never was really concerned about that, although it was weird. I was 14, and my Friday and Saturday nights were getting more important to me. The prize of raccoon pelts faded, and we never really hunted as hard as we did in the past. The dogs eventually passed away, and that was the end of it. My dad died when I was 18, but before he died, we would talk about the good places we hunted for deer and pheasants and the raccoons we took. He told me the reason we stopped hunting raccoons in that farmer's land was because there was something in the woods that night, and the farmer was concerned for our safety. Now, as I mentioned, this farmer was in his late 80s, lived in the farm his whole life. His dad lived there and was the original owner. My dad went on to say the farmer had seen the Bigfoot migrate up and down the Mississippi River along the railroad tracks for decades. He saw them so much that he could predict when they came and left. It wasn't every year, but they seemed peaceful, never harming him. He said they usually stayed near his property only when he planted corn, but not when he planted soybeans. He said the weather affected when they came and left, especially in the springtime. He hadn't seen them for about 10 years and figured it was safe for us to hunt there until the night the dogs took off on us. I really couldn't comprehend what my dad told me. Bigfoot was a California thing to me, and I didn't know what to think. My dad told me to never say anything about this. Why? I don't know. Later on, after my dad passed away, I saw Cleet. I asked him about the coon hunting on the land where we went with my dad. I asked him if it was true about what the farmer said about Bigfoot. And he got real emotional. And he said it was more than just that. Cleet told me that one night the farmer called him to come out to his farm. He needed help. Cleet called my dad and told him to bring a gun and meet him at the farm. When they got there, all of the cows up on the pasture above the bluff were moaning. About 75 head of cows, and it was loud. Strangest thing they'd ever seen, they said. The farmer told them that something's up there messing with the cattle. So the three went up there with their guns. They didn't see anything, but the farmer said the Bigfoot were trying to get one of the cows. They helped move the cows down to a lower pasture, and that was it. Cleet told me he believed this farmer and his story. Looking back, if you saw the land along the Mississippi River, it's like a highway going north and south. It's rugged and unpopulated, and anything can move up and down that part of the country, and nobody would see them. That's my story. It's what I saw and what was passed on to me by two very reliable men. Take it for what it is, John. And that is how we get true knowledge shared. Passing it down. Right? Passing it along. In an honest, truthful manner. And you're shunning the mainstream dog shit programming. All angles of it. Public school system, news, you name it. I'm done with it, man. I'm frickin' done with it. On a side note, did you see the big boss of ABC is starting to attack Joe Rogan's podcast? You see what's happening lately this year? All, I would like to say, us. True speakers, the people, not affiliated in any way with these douchebags, these corporate monsters. Big threat, right? Big threat. People with a voice and no control. Big threat, finally, to mainstream news. Finally. As soon as you see those CEOs lashing out, you know that it's getting to them, right? You know it's finally getting to them. They should all be strung up, slowly cooked over some flames. Anyhow, sorry for that little outburst. Well, not really, but, you know. This next one's titled Sasquatch. Hi, my name is Brian. I wanted to just take a moment to thank you for your courage. The topic, Bigfoot, is very controversial. My wife thinks I'm a whack job for believing in such a thing, but I do. The funny thing is I enjoyed your YouTube videos before I even knew that you had an encounter. Recently, you've shared more and more about Sasquatch, and it's just comforting to know that someone real, intelligent, and obviously honorable has the courage to speak out about the subject. Your grandfather is proud of you. Keep up the excellent work. Brian Fiorilli. Fiorilli. I hope I pronounced it correctly, Brian. I apologize if I didn't. Otis, Maine, USA. Appreciate those kind words, man. Absolutely appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. This place is nothing without all of you people. Right? The brave, honest, free human beings, all here. A lot of them. Vancouver Island, 2003. Hello, Steve. Thank you for your great apps and YouTube channel. I fish and hunt deer and bear in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and hope to hunt and fish in BC and Alaska one day. I live in New Jersey, USA today. I don't tell this story to anyone, but you asked, so here it is. For what it's worth, my 2 cents. In 2003, I fulfilled a long life ambition to take a month's trip to BC. I grew up in England, and I always dreamed of immigrating to the massive BC outdoors. That summer I was 34 and I hiked a lot, taking numerous UK courses. I bought extra gear at MEC Vancouver, got the ferry from Horseshoe Bay to Nanaimo, then hitchhiked up the Parksville and Qualicum beach areas. Drank a few beers, some folks, and then hitchhiked and walked into the interior around the Port Alberni area. Uh-oh, right in the backyard. Approximately southeast of Mount Arrowsmith Regional Park, I believe. That's exactly where I took you guys the other day. Exactly. I don't scare that easily, and you always feel comfortable outdoors versus a big city. However, quite quickly after finding myself alone deeper into the forest, I felt very scared, vulnerable, and anxious. I don't recall feeling relaxed in those forests at any time, like I was being watched or tracked. At night in my tent, it was deathly quiet, except for the occasional far-off screams / calls that did not sound like any animal I could recognize. It was a horrible night of fear and foreboding, and I was very grateful for the dawn when I packed up my stuff and got the hell out of that area as soon as I could. I hitchhiked back to the port, got on the ferry, and I've never been so grateful to be around humans again in Vancouver. No shit. You got really scared. That was a one-off, highly unusual experience for me. I've lived in some rough neighborhoods where people literally wanted to kill me. Like 5 years in Jerusalem as a civilian being rocketed by Katyushas during the Second Lebanon War, and being stalked by a pack of wild, feral dogs in the northern Galilee, lost between two forests past sundown. And yet I've never felt as uncomfortable, scared, and threatened as I did on that part of Vancouver Island. There was something in that forest that had a truly frightening presence and a very heavy, dark aura/energy that made all of my survival instincts urge me to evacuate that area ASAP. I've never returned. Anyway, thanks again, Steve. Love your stories. Thanks for creating this online community of kindred spirits and camaraderie. All the very best, sir. Saul Kenton. Saul? There you go. Welcome to the club. That obviously absolutely scared the living shit out of you. And that, folks, is right outside the door here. And exactly where he's talking, south, is, that's exactly where I took all you guys the other day when I was sitting there. I said how quiet it was. And Mount Aerosmith, the snowy peak, was right there. I was southeast of that peak. In that timber. Not that it really matters, because this shit is going on in my backyard, down the road, up this road, beside the river, over here. All along the highway this way, all along the highway that way. Everywhere, but especially right around here. How big is this circle? I don't even know if there's a limit. I don't know. I mean, if I had to go immediate circle, I'd go about, 15 miles that way, with me being in the center. 15 outstretched all around me is absolutely on fire. Always has been, probably always will be. I'm living in the middle of it, again, as usual. Here's an interesting title. Bigfoot sighting. Don't start shit. Don't start shit, there will not be any shit. It's the title of this email. Alright. Steve. Man, what a great channel you have on YouTube. I'm one of those guys who wish they had what it takes to hunt the mountains. You do. You just talk yourself out of it. I live in Central Florida, and I'm an avid hunter and fisherman, but not on your level. I'm a flatlander. In Central and Northern Florida, we have what has been explained to me to be a Class 2 Bigfoot. Basically, they have a bad attitude, sharp teeth, and they don't kill you, and they very easily could. They're migratory, but sometimes they find a swamp they like and are seen there for many years. There's one such critter in Levi County, Florida, in the lower Suwannee Wildlife Management Area. I have a camp in a place called Fowler's Bluff, right on the Suwannee River. Suwannee. This male Bigfoot is around 8 feet tall and massive. We all know it's the same one because he is gray, almost to the point of being silver. This Bigfoot has a simple message. Don't start no shit. There will not be any shit. He avoids folks, but sometimes you cross paths. That's what happened to me and a friend. I had shot a nice sow hog the day before, and we were smoking a shoulder. That threw in all the innards and such out in the swamp, across from the house, back in the swamp. While I was out there, I cut a small spigot tree down and cut it to pieces to use in the smoker. It smokes like hickory, works well. But we ran low and had to head to the swamp for more. Not a problem. It was already cut and stacked, just had to go grab some. My friend is a huge corn-feed redneck that works for the state of Indiana as a wildlife officer. Huge corn-feed redneck. What's that? Corn-feed redneck that works for the state of Indiana as a wildlife officer, and we've spent our entire life in the woods. He carries a stainless steel cannon on his side when he's down here. A 454 Castle. I carry a 460 Roland. So, short of God, we do not fear a thing. This night it was cool and pitch black in the swamp. There was no sounds. I remember telling my friend, it is crazy how quiet it is. There was a bit of a path through the brush and saw grass where I'd been in and out a couple of times over the last couple of days. I think he probably meant you saw the grass flattened, where I'd been in and out a couple of times over the last couple of days. Neither one of us had much of a flashlight, but it was enough to light the path. When we were about 50 feet from the woodpile, and maybe 20 yards from the gut pile, I heard a very low-pitched growl. I thought, shit, is it a huge boar hog? And we were getting ready to take a charge. Not quite a grizzly, but they fight hard. Then there was a loud sucking sound, like he was pulling something out of the mud, accompanied by limbs breaking. Well, this had our attention, and we were looking to see what the hell it was. There are a few dumbasses like us that go out in the swamps at night, so I did not want to start sending lead downstream in Florida. They shoot back. All of a sudden, there was a root wad heading at us from a small oak, and it was coming like a spear, about 6 or 7 feet off the ground. We both managed to step to the side, but it spattered us with mud. Then we both drew down on this thing. All I could see was a huge silhouette, but it was huge. I was nervous, but at that point, not scared. Then the damn thing did some kind of a half a scream, half a growl that put a type of fear in me that has caused me to stop writing a couple of times and get composure back. I had an imminent death fear that made it to where I could not move, could not shoot, shit, nothing. I'm not exactly sure how my friend managed to do it, but he said, go, very loud, and I ran like a gazelle, with him right behind me. We ran in the house with mud all over us, and if you knew my wife, you'd probably rather fight a swamp ape than to come in the house covered in swamp muck. My wife could clearly see we were shook up. My friend was crying. Not just a little, but like a kid. My friend got a better look at it than I did, and it shook him up so bad, he made me turn my truck around and shine the lights down in the direction where this thing was, while he put his stuff in his truck and left. He always come down twice a year for over 20 years. He drove back to Indiana without sleeping and has never come back. There's been probably 50 sightings of this critter in this area, and no one's been killed by it. I tell everyone, leave him the hell alone, and he will leave you alone. Most folks that get a good look at him say he is down by the river eating clams and shellfish. They said he looks old and goes for the easy meals. I bet that old bastard got a laugh to see 2 full-grown men run like rabbits, crying for mommy. I've had 3 encounters in my 50 years in the swamp, and I can tell you for certain, if they wanted to hurt or kill you, you would be hurt or dead. All there is to it. Don't start any shit with them. There will not be any shit. I'm a huge fan, Steve. May God bless you and your family constantly. P.S. Cook the shoulder in the oven after the fire went out. All right. Wow. It's pretty intense. I wonder how your buddy's making out right now. I'll bet you not one day goes by he doesn't think about it. I put money on it. Not one day. He doesn't think about that life-changing moment. Yeah, we cooked one of those shoulders. We shot a hog in Alabama. And we did one of the shoulders, or 2 shoulders? In one of those, what's it called? The egg? Those big porcelain egg barbecue things that are really popular in the South. We cooked in that all day. Whew. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Real good. Well, I wonder why that one particular being is stuck in that zone. I wonder. Has he been banished in a way? Has he had his skills taken away as punishment for something maybe? I don't know. Who knows, right? Who knows? They obviously are governed by somebody or something. Right? Obviously. This next one's titled, Why They Don't Attack and Pop Heads Off. Deep stuff. Oh, it's from Scott Carpenter. Oh, yes, right. I found another unread from Scott. Now, I'm not sure which end to start. Steve, below is an email string of an experience where I helped a fellow that was having issues with Sasquatch and or a dog-man-like creature. You ask why they don't just kill without restraint or what holds them back. In my opinion, it's God. These are spiritual beings that have to obey spiritual rules. This is next level stuff. But you asked, so I'm going to give it to you. And here is an email from this man to him. I was raised in Blount County and grew up on County Farm Road near William Blount High School. I graduated from Maryville High School in 1970. I bought a secluded 32-acre tract in Morgan County in 2004. I went to work clearing and built a cabin myself. This is to be a hunting cabin until I could retire when I planned to build a log home for my wife and I. That didn't go as planned, so I'm pretty much a hermit. A buddy bought a bunch of acreage around me, so me and my 2 wolf-crossed dogs have over 200 acres surrounding my cabin. This at the end of a dead-end road with no close neighbors. To the back of the property, there are no roads or houses for 3 miles or so. It is mostly Bowater property. It is located between Big South Fork and Catoosa, WMA. A friend of mine had a daylight encounter with the creature in the early 2000s near here. He was visibly shaken when he told his story, and I had no reason to doubt him. This is probably the only reason they finally convinced me that they were here. I've had odd things happen here on the property early on, but I always was able to blow them off until this past spring and summer. I've heard roars, whoops, and most often howls. I've run into walls of stink twice this past summer, and all this activity has slacked off since about this past November. But I feel like it'll pick back up this spring. I've never had a sighting or found a track, though I am plenty woods-wise, having hunted my whole life and living in the woods full-time over the last 12 years or so. I would like to speak with you at your convenience sometime, if possible. And I'm not asking you to investigate my property. I just want a few questions, if possible. I generally don't answer numbers that aren't on my contact list, but if you reply this email, I'll add your contact. Thank you for your time. And Scott answered him, sure, be glad to answer your questions. And then back to Charlie. To Charlie. So Scott answered him with this. I would pray something like this. In the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke any Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or Nephilim. I rebuke you. You are not allowed on my property. I forbid it in the name of Jesus Christ. Lord, please watch over me, my family, and my property, and protect me from the Nephilim, demons, principalities, powers, and the fallen angels. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. And then he replied to Scott, thank you, Scott. Will I be in any extra danger when I leave the property? I hear wolf howls more often than anything else. A neighbor saw one near here the size of a big deer less than a month ago. I suppose I should add Dogman to the prayer. God bless. And then Scott replied, I've had close encounters with the Dogman. They are satanic, in my opinion. I would pray for protection often, regardless of where you are. I do. And regular prayer is good for the soul. Scott. And then again from Charlie to Scott. Sorry I haven't kept you updated as I should. I wanted to give it time to make sure. Things are back to normal here. I haven't had this kind of peace around here in years. I'm not afraid to let my dogs out, or do I feel the need to carry a 45 any time I'm outside. This time last year was getting pretty serious. And since you told me this secret, I haven't heard a peep in months. Kind of like Dorothy wanting to get back to Kansas when she met the wizard and he told her that she had the power all the time. All she'd have to do was click her heels together. I have the power all along. All you need is an unwavering belief in Jesus Christ our Savior and daily prayer for protection from these demons. Thank you again for all your help. I hope you can share this with others that have had my same problem. I hope you and your family are safe, happy, and well on this Memorial Day. Forever thankful, Charlie. And Scott replied, glad to hear that they're staying away after your prayer. The Lord is mighty and powerful. Thanks for staying in touch, and I appreciate this testimony. It'll be helpful when others come to me for help. So many can't believe that prayer and faith is what is required to get rid of them. Scott. Excuse me. Then Scott added a note for me at the end. It says, Steve, believe it or not, that's the key to understanding these beings. They are physical and spiritual and must obey God's rules. That is the answer to your question. Scott, there you go. Take from it what you will or leave it, you guys, right? Take from it what you will or leave it. And I'm sure Scott's still with us. I'll bet you he is. And I still believe I do have a whole bunch of unread emails from him. And I will, and I'll find them. And I'll share them eventually. Now, what am I doing here? 1 second. I think that's about it for now. I wrote down a little note earlier when we were having some conversation earlier today. Get this one. Not only in the Canadian military, off topic, I'm done with emails, but you want to hear this one. Off topic, in the Canadian military, it just gets worse and worse. So not only are you not allowed to refer to a woman as miss, ma'am, or she, you're not allowed to refer to a man as he, him, or whatever the F. Well, now you're not allowed to say or wish anyone a Merry Christmas. But they're still giving holidays for Christmas time. What's up with that one? What's up with that one? If you're trying to learn to get better, I just call it getting better between the ears, and trying to understand what's going on and make sense of the shit show. What is all this pointing to? What do you think this is all? What do you think this is all pointing to? Got to think about it. All the clues, all the indicators, all the little red flags. You're not allowed to refer to as a human being as who they are. You're not allowed to say Merry Christmas. They've eliminated the Lord's Prayer at school. I grew up with the Lord's Prayer in school when I was in elementary. They've eliminated that. They've got you hating flags. They've got you tearing down statues from past history. What else? Right? It's crazy, isn't it? But I thought I'd mention that. I just heard that today. In the Canadian military today, you're not allowed to say or acknowledge to anyone Merry Christmas. Holy cow. Who do you think's running this planet now, huh? Holy shit. But anyway, what I'll say on the other video, the other day I mentioned about looking away when it comes to this massive pedophile ring bullshit going on with all the elites, Hollywood especially, the world leaders. There's no question that's valid. Not a question about it. Now get this one. The word in the street is, not the word in the street, the mainstream word on both sides, the left and the right, agree. 357,000 children have gone missing unaccounted for just in the U.S. Just in the United States. So I Googled what cities have a population of 357,000. Turns out in Canada, the first one that came up in Canada is a city called Halifax. Is Halifax so big and popular? Probably people in the United States have heard of it. Halifax. 370-something thousand person population. So, the amount of children gone missing currently is the exact same number if you made the entire population of Halifax disappear. This isn't even a made-up movie. This isn't a joke. This isn't a fantasy. This isn't a fictional horror movie. This is happening right now. While we are alive, this is going down right now. Enough children have gone missing in the modern world to be equivalent to the entire city of Halifax population to disappear. What do you think of that? Or are you looking away? Do you shut your ears off? Who does not want to focus on, talk about bring awareness to the fact that enough fucking children have gone missing in North America today recently that it's the equivalent of the entire population of Halifax, Canada. And people want to look away, not acknowledge it. Pussies, cowards, want to look away, not acknowledge it, not even bring that up at dinner. Don't even mention that to a coworker tomorrow morning when you go back to work. How that doesn't... But meanwhile, everybody's talking about Diddy. Did he do you too? Did he do you? You know? Did he? And the sex parties that Diddy had, and all the drugs, and all the dog shit. Well, lots of people want to talk about that shit. Fuck. I'll bet you there's probably 500 different Diddies in operation just in the city of Vancouver alone right now. They're not getting any attention. Man, we are a twisted bunch, aren't we? Aren't we a twisted bunch? Think about it. Think about the shit that's going down in mainstream news right now. The top stories. You know, I might even... Maybe one morning when I get internet back in here, I'll just take a look at the top stories just for shits and giggles and comedy factor. And I'll go down the list. But then I'll counter it with what's really going on as well at the same time that nobody's bringing any attention to. The entire population of the Canadian city Halifax has gone missing in North America, but every single one is a child. Who could pull that off today? Let me see. If you just want to start investigating like you're a detective and you're going to get the bad guys, where would you start? Well, first off, I'd probably think, obviously, first I'd go, wow, what kind of position would you have to be in to make that happen? You're probably not some crazy gangster group that's making it happen because you're not big and powerful enough to fly under the radar. Who is? Who is? The owners of the radar. Right? How do you fly under the radar and make 357,000 children disappear? The only way is if you have control of the radar. Any cops out there, detectives, want to chime in on that? Throw down, email me. Email me, throw down in the comment section below. The only way that's going to happen, fly under the radar, is if you own the radar and you're the guilty culprit. No-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. Right? Who you scared of when you own the radar? Nobody. Right? You should be. You should be. That's a lot of angry parents. 357,000 kids. It's close to 1 million parents. That's a lot of power and anger if you could organize it and get it against the radar owner. Ooh, wow. Man, I wish I'd come across a lot of this shit when I was younger. I probably would have donated a lot of my life to organizing the right people, getting the right knowledge, and doing the right thing. Getting some very kick-ass, talented, terrifying good souls to do some badass shit. That needs to go down. That's the only way. It's the only way. Anyway, there you go. Don't look away. Don't not talk about it. Alright, don't be a pussy. Might be your kid one day. Then what are you going to do? Imagine if your kid got taken. Imagine if your kid got disappeared, was used in a sex ring, and everyone you told went like this. You imagine what that'd feel like? Think about it. One of you right here on this channel, where we're all, I consider us a fairly tight group. Whoops, your kids just got taken, thrown in a white van, was caught on a security camera in your driveway. Gone. Gandhi. That's all she wrote. And now you're freaking out. You're telling your neighbors, your family, your coworkers, and everybody's going like this. Well, that's kind of shitty, man. I'll see you around. Good luck. Good luck with that. That's what's going down. That's what a lot of us are doing. That's what a lot of people here are doing. I wonder why. What has us conditioned to not completely turn a city upside down? To find these kids or find the culprits? What has us conditioned to not do that? Beyond me. I haven't a frickin' clue. What are you going to do about it, Steve? You're not doing anything. Not really. I'm talking about it openly to I don't know how many people here right now. A lot. And there's a lot of channels on social media that aren't saying shit, and they got bigger followings than I do, right? There's a lot of celebrities out there with a lot of clout, and they're not saying shit. Why not? Why aren't they saying shit? They guilty? Right? Anyway. There you go. I'll stop. I'll stop for now. I'll bring it up again. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Sarah's decals, stickers. Still going around the world. I should almost change the image to where's the kids? Where's the kids? Right? Maybe I should stop taking my money and the donations here. Maybe I should stop putting it towards feeding kids. Maybe I should put it all towards hunting down the culprits. Maybe, huh? Maybe. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. Can't stop me unless you kill me. Chances are I'll probably kill you too if you try. Later.